Many of us, we have a focus on the low latitudes, tropical, subtropical regions, which connects directly with big questions from the United Nations, Sustainable Development Goals. So we are connecting very closely whatever we do with the local people. So we always work with the local people to share knowledge. We learn from them, they learn from us, to understand where they see actually the problem and where the bottlenecks are, why actually progress is so difficult. Because very often from the UK perspective, that is not what it actually is in reality, wherever you are in the world. So I do a lot of work which looks at large-scale processes, natural processes, and they of course connect people, they connect life, and it's a lot about carbon cycling, carbon stores, carbon recycling back into the atmosphere, CO2, greenhouse gases. But a lot of work we do, or I'm engaged in, which I'm leading, are now looking much more into understand what actually people think about that problem, because we all have a different opinion about why it is important and what is actually important. And one of the magic words we found out over the last years is what we call connectivity. It's to understand that something which is true here or something which is relevant here is also connected to something which is somewhere else. So we talk about tens, if not today, probably hundreds of projects which look at all the different aspects. And funny enough, the coastline always comes in at one point, because either you come from the deep ocean where we work and you work your way up to the coast, or you come from the inland. In the end, everything comes together at the coastline where the pressure is the highest. This is where most people live. This is where the change is most profound. This is where it is most dangerous, where we need to be really careful. And that's why we focus not all, but a lot of research around coastal areas, because they are, of course, intimately connected to each other. So a lot of my research is developing these joined up land to sea concepts, strategies. And how do we do this? Typically, we combine at least two, typically three different main sectors of researchers. So there is a group of natural scientists. Some people look at the environment in the form of pollution and processes. Others look at life and life forms. We work a lot on microbiology and to understand the role of microbiology in processes which of course also impact health of the ecosystem, but also of humans. And then, depending on the topic, we include people who come from businesses, so the business side of developing new opportunities for the local people. Or we bring in people who look more at financial backgrounds, financial models. So we do research, for example, on forests, maintaining and keeping forests and developing new forest models, which actually help to sustain existing forests rather than chopping them down. But everything is underpinned in the end by a very strong engagement communication component. One of the most difficult things in science, interestingly, is talking to people who do something completely different, because we use different languages. We don't even understand each other if we say the same word. For example, I'm a natural scientist, so if I talk about data, I have immediately an idea what that is. But data for somebody for social sciences has a completely different meaning. And data for who is from a small village, and we talk with them about it, they have again a completely different imagination what this is. So there's a lot about finding a common language, understanding each other, and developing new cross-disciplinary strategies. This is a critical point of success. If we manage to understand each other better, we can of course also benefit from a more joined-up approach, and that's what we try to do. So these are the fundamental questions where we spend a lot of time to make sure that our projects are as tailored and sharp as they can. And what is important to mention, there is of course always our partners on the other side with whom we work. So we don't work in isolation, not at all. We entirely work with these people. They are part of the team, 100% part of the team, even though they are not here in Edinburgh. But that's important to understand. But this engagement process, which is multi-directional, actually really delivers new understanding. It drives our science, it drives what we do, and we provide, of course, high-end research, whether this is now in the lab, in the Lal Center here where we are, or maybe other social sciences research which feeds into the discussion. The idea in the end is that we enable the local people so that they basically can take on their own future. We want to understand how the landscape where the people are living is developing. And that is, of course, something you imagine a map and you look from the surface. So this is where satellite data, drone data, all this kind of information comes in, which gives us a spatial view. And this is, of course, where new interpretation and a computer-based interpretation comes in. And then we connect that actually with monitoring on the ground so that we actually get an idea of, the bird's eyes view, looking around a landscape where people live, where pollution is happening, where processes are happening, and link that with real measurements. Speak to people who fill that with a context, a historical or a cultural context, because local people will be living around there. This is their home. To understand why things happen, how frequently do they happen, and then you create a really interesting new mix where the new technology takes a leading role. What comes next is a more integrated and also hopefully more better informed automatic understanding what's going on. So this goes back to connectivity. If we don't understand what happens inland, far inland, somewhere where, for example, dams are built, which perturb a river flow, then of course you will never understand what happens in the coastline because they will see the cascading effects of that. Or if you talk about systems where there are big cities in the nearby, of course, a city creates a microenvironment in so many ways. So understanding these connectivities, that's something which I'm really interested in. And communicating that better to the people so that we find joined up solutions. So we want to give younger people who are interested in the more integrated research an opportunity to participate, especially also from our partners in the South or wherever we are in the world. So we really invite them to come to work with us here for a certain time period so that they become, not only that they understand the value of what we do, also that they become leaders in the field in the long run. And that's, of course, a very important component.